As Han Li made his move, he instantly killed Mulan's Nascent Soul. His terrifying combat power stunned everyone, ending this brief, top-tier battle. Unfortunately, a traitor appeared in the alliance. With a sigh, Han Li was forced to act again. He was originally not far from the breach, just a stone's throw away. In fact, with a slight movement of his feet, he appeared right in front of the gap. The snake monster happened to be charging over. Half of its body was already sticking out. Seeing Han Li blocking its path, a vicious glint flashed in its eyes. Without any warning, it opened its mouth, and a stream of purple-black venom shot out again. Be careful, fellow Taoist, dodge quickly. Having just witnessed the venom's potency, the bald brute and the old man couldn't help but shout a warning, their expressions changing. It wasn't that the two of them truly had any deep friendship with Han Li, but rather, in the face of a common monstrous beast, they felt a sense of shared animosity toward the enemy. Besides, the mage army had not yet officially attacked the Great Formation. Neither of them wanted to lose another high-level companion. Hearing the two men's shouts of alarm, Han Li, however, stared at the purple-black liquid spraying towards him. A peculiar expression flashed across his face. He slowly raised a single hand. With a flick of his 5 fingers, his entire palm was dyed ink black, covered by an additional layer of a strange, eerie blue liquid. He reached out directly for the venom. This action gave the bald, burly man and his companion a huge fright. The Fulan monster, on the other hand, was stunned for a moment, and without hesitation, it spat out another mouthful. A faint, almost imperceptible smirk appeared on Han Li's lips. A dazzling azure light erupted between Han Li and the monster. A loud sizzling sound immediately followed. The brilliant light flashed wildly a few times, then instantly dimmed and vanished. The bald, burly man and old man Ma hurriedly blinked their eyes. When they looked again at the scene before them, what came into their view was astounding. They saw the Fulan monster, which resembled a snake demon, had just barely managed to rush out of the light's glow. Its demonic face was filled with utter ecstasy, but its entire body flashed with a brilliant light as it transformed into a lifelike blue ice sculpture. The stream of purple venom it had spat out had turned into a long, thin icicle, protruding bizarrely from its mouth, a foot in length. Meanwhile, Han Li, at some unknown moment, had appeared behind the monster. A hand, flickering with blue demonic flames, was just being slowly withdrawn from the nape of the monster's neck, as expected of a monster produced by a first-time sub-spirit. Although its spiritual intelligence is not low, it has too little combat experience. It's not a threat. Han Li stared at the ice sculpture and said faintly. Then, he raised his other hand. A thick golden arc shot out from the palm of his hand and struck the ice sculpture. In an instant, it transformed into a delicate golden net, enveloping the ice sculpture within it. The blue and golden lights intertwined and flickered together. A cracking sound followed. The ice sculpture shattered inch by inch, amidst the sky full of ice crystals and blue light. A fist-sized, purplish-black object suddenly appeared, and immediately shot outwards, but it crashed head-first into the already prepared golden net. It instantly let out an inhumanly shrill screech. A cold glint flashed across Han Li's face. The palm that shot the golden arc clenched its 5 fingers. The golden net instantly shrank and tightened, and then it exploded violently. A blinding golden light erupted, submerging that purplish-black thing within it. After one last shriek, the serpent monster's nascent soul within the golden light turned into a puff of green smoke, and gently dissipated. Speaking of which, this sub-spirit art is also from the demonic path. An exceptionally vicious ancient secret art was naturally and completely suppressed by the evil warding divine lightning. It didn't even have a chance to cast a teleportation spell. It just vanished without a trace. In the distance, the bald-browed burly man's mouth was wide open. For a long while, the old man surnamed Ma from Bulongku, however, looked relatively calm, but the shock in his eyes was self-evident. Seeing the two of them so stunned, Han Li had already expected this. He showed no sign of surprise. Instead, he reached out his hand towards the storage bag that had fallen on the ground, and that blue flying fork, and sucked them up with one hand. After scanning them with his divine sense, he tossed the 2 items to the burly man. Although we killed him, his magic treasure and the contents of the storage bag should be handed over to the Yulin sect untouched. This way, the Yulin sect will have less to complain about. Han Li looked at the 2 of them and said slowly, "Brother Han's words make a lot of sense. Let's do as our fellow Dawa says." Perhaps it was because of Han Li's performance in instantly killing the scaled belly snake demon that the bald-browed burly man had still not recovered from the shock. He didn't utter a single word of objection. He just subconsciously agreed at once. As for the old man, after his lips moved a few times, and did not utter any words of opposition. After a flash of embarrassment passed, he put away the disciplined ruler magic treasure. When Han Li first killed that black-robed person, one could still say the other party was careless, and that there was some luck involved. But this time, bare-handed, to single-handedly eliminate one, a spirit-attached puppet with a cultivation level comparable to the mid-Nascent Soul stage, the shock to the two of them was too great. The two of them almost guessed in unison. This newly promoted elder of the Fallen Cloud sect, could it be that his Taoist arts and divine abilities were actually no less than those of a late Nascent Soul stage cultivator? Once this thought emerged, it was no wonder the two of them lost their composure so badly. Since the matter is resolved, I, Han, will go back and rest for a bit. When the spellmasters attack again, fellow Taoists, feel free to call for me then, Han Li said calmly, his expression as normal as ever. Brother Han, please feel free to go. Fellow Taoist Ma and I will be here. We will keep watch. In the words of the bald-browed burly man, there was an unconscious hint of awe. Hearing this, Han Li smiled. He clasped his hands in salute, turned around, and walked out of the hall. Just now, using the Tian Nan ice flame and the evil warding divine lightning to kill that spirit-attached snake monster, Han Li also had no other choice. He was well aware of the situation. He took the initiative to act, relying solely on the bald, burly man and the old man. It would be very difficult for them to handle this monster that the protagonist had already escaped from. After all, the monster's cultivation level was simply too high. If it were to escape, it would surely cause endless trouble in the future. Besides, after he formed his Nascent Soul, there was really no need to continue hiding all of his divine abilities. His current situation, and when he was in the chaotic Star Sea, were vastly different. Back then, his cultivation level was low, and he was in an unfamiliar place. Naturally, he had to conceal much of his strength, to avoid attracting too much attention and inviting a fatal disaster. But now that his Nascent Soul was formed, he had already joined the ranks of this generation's high-level cultivators. Aside from a select few people, others were unable to pose too great a threat to him. Thus, this concern was naturally greatly reduced. Furthermore, judging by the current intelligence on the invasion of the mage's army, even if he wanted to continue hiding his divine abilities, it would be an impossible task. At the very least, after the last treasure-hunting trip to the Mulan Plains, the Ghost Spirit sect, Marquis Nan Long, and the others should already know that his strength was extraordinary. As a result, it's better to be open about it. It's better to reveal a portion of my strength beforehand. This way, I can deter some of the minor figures. Otherwise, if other cultivators of the same rank think my divine abilities are weak, and that I'm weak and easily bullied, it would instead attract some unnecessary trouble. Of course, a few of my life-saving trump cards, Han Li still wouldn't reveal them in front of others easily. As Han Li pondered this, he also sensed the state of his body, the strange sensation of the purple apex flame enveloping his Nascent Soul. Just now, because he was facing that Fulan monster, he had to unleash the profound azure icy flame within this fire. He unleashed all of its power. That was how he managed to instantly freeze that beast. Now that the flame has returned, and reverted to being the purple apex flame, it felt somewhat unstable. It seems that wielding such a powerful demonic flame truly does require a certain level of cultivation. A self-mocking smile appeared on his face. Han Li slowly walked towards the small cell. We too really misjudged him. This fellow Taoist Han's divine abilities are unfathomable. His strength is far beyond ours. Elder Ma waited until Han Li had walked out of the main hall. After his figure had gradually receded into the distance, he said with a wry smile, "Indeed, even though his cultivation is only at the early Nascent Soul stage, but just based on that golden electric arc and the unknown blue flame, even a mid-Nascent Soul stage cultivator using sword control would probably have to keep a wide berth." A trace of envy flashed across the bald-browed burly man's face. But this is also a good thing for us. With such a powerful fellow Taoist among us, those invading spellcasters outside might not be anything too worrying about. The old man surnamed Ma said with a smile, "That makes sense. But that blue ice flame, although I have no recollection of ever hearing about it, I feel like I vaguely heard of that golden electric arc somewhere before, but I can't quite recall it at the moment. Brother Ma, do you have any impression of it?" The bald-browed burly man nodded slightly, then asked with a frown, "No, this is the first time I've ever seen a golden electric arc. Just what kind of cultivation technique is he practicing to be so incredibly formidable?" Even a nearly incorporeal Nascent Soul was trapped within it, unable to escape at all. The old man surnamed Ma muttered to himself, recalling the scene from just now. A faint chill crept into his heart. Never mind, No matter what kind of great divine ability fellow Taoist Han is cultivating, it's a good thing for us. We should discuss the matters for tomorrow. The bald-browed burly man's brows furrowed. He seemed unwilling to discuss the matter any further, and gently changed the subject. The matter of tomorrow. Brother Liu, what is the meaning of your words? The old man asked, somewhat puzzled. Since the Mulan people are having the spies sabotage the Great Formation, we might as well turn their own plan against them. A glint of light flashed in the burly man's eyes. He said sinisterly, Brother Liu's meaning is, the old man surnamed Ma immediately understood, as if coming to a realization. It's very simple. In our great hall, the voices of the old man and the burly man had certainly dropped a few notches. After a moment of them speaking in hushed tones, the wild laughter of the bald, burly man echoed throughout the hall. He seemed quite pleased with his plan. At noon on the second day, just as the scorching sun was high in the sky, and the heat was unbearable, the thunderous sound of war drums began to roll. A massive army of spellcasters, like a dark cloud, endlessly surged forward, drawing ever closer to this place. But this time, in the middle of their ranks, an enormous creature had appeared. This was a giant beast over 300 feet high, a brown behemoth over 200 feet long. At first glance, it resembled a giant rhinoceros magnified several dozen times. At the front of the giant beast's snout, a brilliant blue giant horn, over 10 feet long, was particularly eye-catching. On its incomparably massive body, it wore a layer of jet black, gleaming battle armor, on which various kinds of runes faintly appeared and flickered. One could tell at a glance that it was priceless. Despite this giant beast's enormous size, it was skilled in the art of flight. Wherever its feet stepped, strange blue clouds would appear to hold them up, making its form extremely agile, without the slightest hint of clumsiness. On the giant beast's back sat a beautiful young woman of about 20 years. The woman's arms and feet were bare. Her face was delicate and pretty, but a menacing aura flickered in her beautiful eyes. A cold glint would flash from time to time as her bright eyes moved. She wore a simple, dark green outfit, and that Master Gao Shou and Ku Yao, who had appeared yesterday, followed closely, one on the left and one on the right of the giant beast, appearing extremely respectful towards the woman. Just as they were approaching the sky above Yellow Dragon Mountain, the woman in green on the giant beast let out a soft sound of surprise. What is it, High Master Yue? Did you discover something? Hearing this, Ku Yao couldn't help but ask, it is a bit strange. A strange light flickered in the young woman's beautiful eyes. She said slowly, could it be that something has gone wrong? That the man didn't succeed? The elderly mage waited. He began to feel a little worried. That's not certain. See for yourselves, the woman said faintly. Then she closed her eyes and said no more. The elderly mage and Ku Yao glanced at each other, feeling it was a bit strange. They both released their spiritual sense. They slowly probed forward. A moment later, the expressions on their faces changed. Ku Yao, even more astonished, said, what's going on? That mist has already dispersed. Didn't we have an agreement with that person? That when we arrived and were halfway through our attack, he would suddenly remove it. So the formations could wipe out all these cultivators. But now, these formations are wide open. Could it be that something unexpected has happened? I don't know. Let's get closer and take a careful look before deciding, the elderly maid said with hesitation. Hearing the two of them speak, the woman on the giant beast remained expressionless and silent. So, the army of mages continued to advance. However, under the elderly mage's stern command, all the mages immediately became extremely vigilant. On the short remaining journey, nothing unusual happened. The mages arrived smoothly, at the high altitude where they had been yesterday. But this time, seeing the scene below, all the mages couldn't help but stir restlessly. The once boundless sea of emerald mist had completely vanished, revealing the unusually clear peaks of Yellow Dragon Mountain and the exquisite pavilions on its summit. It's just that these once exceptionally beautiful buildings were all charred black and ruined, with wisps of smoke curling up from several places, as if they had been engulfed by a great fire. The sight was utterly desolate, and the entire mountaintop was deathly silent, as if it had been completely abandoned. The army of mages parted to the left and right. The young woman urged the giant beast slowly forward. All the other mages showed expressions of reverence as they looked toward the graceful figure on the giant beast. The commotion immediately subsided. Her two attendants followed closely behind her. The woman looked at the scene before her. Her bright eyes shifted. After a moment of silence, she brushed back her beautiful hair with a delicate hand. A cold smile appeared on her lips. It's no use. Although the thick fog is gone, there's still a barrier inside that blocks our divine sense. We can't investigate the situation inside carefully, Mage Gaosho said with a look of surprise and doubt. That's right. the scene we're seeing now might just be an illusion. Otherwise, that person would have truly succeeded. Why haven't they contacted us by now? Ku Yao also said doubtfully. Then according to you two masters, are we just to stand by and do nothing here? Of course not, the woman said in a cold voice. We just need to be extra careful. It's also possible that person was only partially successful. They were discovered, pursued, and fled this place, and the other cultivators simply abandoned this place, and have since withdrawn. Master Gao She speculated. It's useless to make wild guesses here. Based on that person's cultivation level, if they were caught off guard, there should have been a 70 to 80% chance of success. However, we must also consider the worst-case scenario. It's also possible they have already failed and been eliminated or captured. This might just be a trap. The corner of the Jade Mountain woman's mouth lifted slightly. So, what Master Le means is? Ku Yao became a little confused. Regardless of whether it's a trap or not, we are here to break the formation anyway. We will just proceed according to the original plan. If we suffer some casualties, we will be able to probe the reality of the situation. It would be worth it. The one thing we cannot afford to waste right now is time. According to the latest news, the reinforcements from the other factions in Tian Nan are gathering. They are busy reinforcing the Nine Nations Alliance. It will only take them 2 or 3 months to do so. We must clear them out within 1 month. All the great cultivator formations from the main force to Tian City. Only then can we seize the initiative. If we let the reinforcements and the cultivators of the Nine Nations Alliance join forces, even if we can still defeat them, we will suffer heavy losses, the woman said unhurriedly. Then let's do as Grandmother Les says. The Venerable Dharma Master agreed after a moment's hesitation. As for Ku, he cared even less about the lives and deaths of the low-level Dharma Masters. He also had no objections. Seeing this, the woman nodded. After her red lips moved slightly a few times, she transmitted a few words to someone unknown. Immediately, from within the cultivator army, nearly 100 identically dressed Dharma Masters rushed out. Led by a leading Dharma Master, they slowly approached the summit of Yellow Dragon Peak. Before their eyes, these 100-plus Dharma Masters turned into black dots one by one, gradually stepping into the area where the Sea of Fog used to be. Nothing unusual happened, so these people, each holding a Dharma artifact, began to fly boldly towards the peak. The path was unobstructed. These 100 cultivators easily reached the mountain peak. Still, nothing happened. The mage of high longevity let out a great sigh of relief, and with a joyful expression, he said to the woman from Green Mountain, "It seems this place has really been abandoned by them. Let's have the others go in and search as well. They left in such a hurry. There must be plenty of things they didn't have time to take. Don't be in a rush. Let's wait and see," the woman said coldly, without even lifting her eyelids. The mage of high longevity was stunned for a moment, and he did not say anything more. At this moment, those 100 or so cultivators had already started in the half-burned pavilions and kiosks, rummaging for items, and from time to time, they would find some spirit materials and other such valuable items. These cultivators were all beaming with joy. They unceremoniously claimed these items as their own, stuffing them into their storage pouches. The great army of cultivators was originally composed of various Mulan tribes, large and small. Items obtained during the Great War, aside from those from warehouses and mines, which were considered public property, the rest of the spoils naturally belonged to the individuals who found them. Seeing this situation, the great army of cultivators outside became restless again. An opportunity like this, without having to fight a desperate battle, to easily rake in a huge amount of spoils, was truly a rare one. This naturally made the others restless and eager to move. Their eyes grew greedy with envy. Such a vast complex of buildings, who knows how many more treasures might be hidden inside. Master Leshang saw that after waiting for some time, Mage Gao Shuo and Ku Yao were both becoming restless. Ku Yao also spoke up hesitantly. Since the two of them were in this contingent of mages, most of these mages naturally came from their two tribes. Their Mulan steppe had always been poor in cultivation resources. They naturally did not want the mages from their tribes to miss this opportunity. As for the 100 mages at the front, they were from a small and not very powerful tribe. Obtaining these few things should be enough for them. The woman in green remained expressionless, as if she had not heard the two of them speak, but her beautiful eyes narrowed slightly and imperceptibly, becoming somewhat hazy and distant. Ku Yao and the other man exchanged a glance. After hesitating for a moment, they did not press the matter further. After a full tea's time had passed, the 100-odd mages had just crossed the mountain peak, reaching a point about 1/3 of the way down. At this moment, the woman finally spoke. You two will each send 100 people to join them, and while you are at it, destroy the remaining restrictions inside. After scanning the entire mountain peak without using divine sense, I will not allow anyone else to enter this mountain. Yes, we will do as Master Yule says. The two of them were overjoyed. They hurriedly sent a simultaneous voice transmission to the trusted disciples of their respective tribes. As a result, another 200 mages charged to the summit of the mountain. Naturally, another ferocious, wolf-like search began. It seems these are all of them. My magic power can't hold out any longer. Activate the mirror. Somewhere on Yellow Dragon Mountain, the voice of the elder surnamed Ma quietly sounded out. What a true pity. Not a single one of the Mulan people's grand corpses fell into the trap. The sigh of the hook-nosed burly man was also heard. He seemed rather regretful. But not long after these words were spoken, a rumbling sound grew from a faint noise to a loud roar. The entire mountain peak began to tremble in violent bursts all over the summit. In that instant, the 300 mages searching for treasure on the peak, all of their expressions changed drastically, without needing anyone to give a command. Immediately, they scattered in a panic, fleeing in all directions. Among them, the 3-core formation mages naturally had the fastest escape gleams. In the blink of an eye, they shot dozens of Zhang away. But no matter how fast their escape gleams were, it was impossible to escape the range of the grand array in an instant. All that could be seen were multicolored spiritual lights appearing in the sky above the mountain peak. The mist that had originally disappeared from the surroundings surged forth. In an instant, a green mist churned and rolled. It once again took Yellow Dragon Mountain as its center and turned the vast area into a sea of mist. Seeing this situation, the expressions on Master Gao Shu and Ku Yao's faces instantly turned ugly. They even became somewhat ashen. But the woman in green sitting on the giant beast still had an icy gaze. Her brow didn't even twitch. It really is a trap. What a pity. If we hadn't let fellow Taoist Gu make a move, we probably could have remained hidden longer and played a greater role. After watching for a moment, the woman spoke with cold and ruthless words. The people inside that deathly place. Ku Yao clenched his fists, staring at the sea of mist. He said, his eyes blazing with fire. The core formation cultivator who led the team up earlier was a direct descendant whom I valued greatly. I never thought he would fall into the enemy's great formation unless like that. Filled with anxiety, he couldn't help but think of rescuing them. Don't waste your efforts. With the divine abilities of a Nascent Soul cultivator, dealing with a few core formation cultivators inside a great formation is an effortless task. I'm afraid they have already been wiped out. The woman from Jade Mountain glanced at Ku Yao and said without any emotion, if that's the case, then let me lead the charge to break the formation. I will unleash the fire spirit essence and shatter this formation in one go. Then I will grind the cultivators inside to dust, one by one. Ku Yao's face shifted through shades of green and red several times, before he said with a grim expression, the fire spirit essence. All right, since you are so determined, I will naturally give you my full cooperation. However, your fire spirit essence should be saved for a critical moment. Furthermore, you must pay close attention to that young cultivator who killed Mr. Taku. I suspect he is the one who destroyed the physical body of Master Mu from the Skywind tribe. If that is the case, then his abilities are not to be underestimated. He can also use an extremely strange blue demonic flame. If you're not careful, you'll fall for his tricks. The woman said with a raised eyebrow. The cultivator who destroyed Master Mu's physical body. I heard he knows the legendary lightning evasion technique. That would indeed make him a true expert. Fa Shiwen's expression changed. A look of fear appeared in his eyes. Master Wen, your cultivation technique is most vulnerable to this kind of close combat cultivator. You must be extra careful. Whatever you do, do not engage him in a fight. Leave him to me. The gentle wind art I cultivate. Its speed is certainly not inferior to his thunder evasion. Even if his demonic flame and golden fox are powerful, they are completely useless if I do not let him get close. As for his other abilities, he is merely an early-stage Nascent Soul cultivator. Can he really compare to me? A glint flashed in the woman's eyes. She said with a hint of arrogance, very well. This person can only be handled by Master Yue. Master Yue is someone who can even rival the Tian Nan and fight on equal footing. With Master Yue, that person will certainly be no match. When Master Gaosha heard this, he immediately felt a sense of relief. It seemed he had great confidence in this woman in green. Humph, the Tian Nan the woman, whose expression had been calm all this time. Upon hearing the name Tian Nan her expression immediately darkened. Hearing that cold snort, Master Gaoshu was stunned. He then remembered that this Master Yue considered being defeated by the Tian Nan a disgrace. She had always hated it when others brought this up. This made Master Gao Shu extremely awkward. He wanted to take back his words and say something else. The young woman suddenly waved her hand. Her face regained its calm and indifferent expression. All right, breaking the formation is the priority. There is no need for any more talk. Set up the grand formation and attack. Yes. The tall and thin mage felt a bit relieved. He replied in agreement. Thud. Somewhere in the pitch-black sea of fog, the headless body of a core formation cultivator tumbled and fell to the ground. Not far away, a figure flashed within the thick fog. Han Li, shrouded in an azure light, appeared there. He glanced towards the distant corpse. He reached out and beckoned with his hand. A streak of azure and red light circled once above the corpse, and then flew swiftly back. He unhurriedly took a few steps forward. Han Li picked up the cultivator's storage pouch. After inspecting it with his divine sense, a look of disappointment appeared on his face. Inside, there was still nothing but junk. There was nothing related to the formation's core. Han Li's brows furrowed tightly. After a moment, he finally let out a long sigh. Just at that moment, suddenly, outside the sea of fog, the sound of war drums thundered. Several astonishing waves of spiritual energy erupted into the sky from the direction of the drums. Then a deep and rumbling roar like muffled thunder shook everything. The heavens and earth seemed to gasp in response. The tremors were overwhelming. The green mist within the sea of black fog all began to churn slightly on its own. Han Li's expression remained unchanged. He coldly scanned the strange colors around him. He raised a hand and gazed out toward the edge of the sea of fog. A flicker of contemplation passed through his eyes. But a moment later, a cold sneer played on his lips. He raised his hand and unleashed a crimson fireball, turning the corpse at his feet to ash. Then he turned and headed for the center of the sea of fog. In the blink of an eye, his figure vanished into the mist, leaving no trace. In the center of the sea of fog, an entire mountain peak was bizarrely split in two. The front half was still a mess of ruined buildings, but the back half presented a completely different scene. Pavilions and terraces stood perfectly intact. From time to time, cultivators would fly out from within, scattering towards various parts of the sea of fog. The elder Ma Din and the burly Tianmei were several hundred feet in the air above these pavilions, standing side by side as they gazed toward the mage army. Their faces were completely grave. I never thought the Mulan people would be this cautious. Even though we eliminated those mages, it seems we didn't do any real damage to them. It looks like we have no choice but a head-on confrontation now. Ma Zhu, you just used the heaven-defying banner to cover half the mountaintop. Is your magic power holding up? The bushy-browed man first sighed softly. Then he asked the old man with some concern. I was able to conserve some of my magic power. It might not be enough to defeat the enemy then, but to tie down one Mulan great shaman will still be no problem. The old man stroked his beard. He said with satisfaction, that's good. The remaining enemies can be left for me and fellow Taoist Han to deal with. Fellow Taoist Gu should have also recovered some of his vital energy by now. He then instructed his subordinate cultivators. If the situation becomes critical, then also call out Buzu who is recuperating. The bushy-browed man said gravely, it seems that's the only way. It's just that the giant beast will probably be a bit tricky. None of us can be distracted to deal with other things. I'm afraid ordinary cultivators won't be able to handle it. The old man shook his head. Sensing the behemoth outside the great formation, a trace of worrying showed on his face. This is something that can't be helped. After all, we don't have enough people. We can only let the Morong brothers first use the static formation to pin it down for a while. Their lightning attribute cultivation techniques, as considered the most destructive among core formation cultivators. The giant beast is just incredibly tough and thick-skinned. It should have some effect, right? The burly man himself seemed a bit unconfident. After all, the two of them had heard from those defeated cultivators about the terror of this beast. This is all we can do for now. The old man nodded with some worrying, approving of this idea. At this moment, an azure light flashed within the green mist. A brilliant streak shot out from within. After circling for a moment, it seemed to have discovered the two of them and flew swiftly over. Fellow Taoists, it seems the Mulan people are really going to attack. Have you arranged a strategy to face the enemy? Within the azure radiance, a figure was revealed. He spoke to the two of them with a smile. Brother Han, you've arrived at the perfect time. We were just discussing a plan. The burly man, with a smile on his face, repeated their earlier conversation, explaining it once more. That giant beast is indeed a thorny problem. It's a species that was thought to only exist in ancient times. I don't know where the Mulan people found it. Let's proceed as you have both discussed. Han Li's brow furrowed for a moment, but it quickly smoothed out as he spoke. This battle will still depend heavily on Brother Han's divine abilities. The burly man chuckled. and said with a hint of respect in his voice, "The safety of the entire Tian Nan region is at stake. I, Han, will of course do my best, but I fear the enemy is too powerful. My spirit is willing, but my strength is not sufficient." After hearing these words, Han Li rubbed his nose and said calmly, "Now that I have revealed my strength." Han Li was no longer being modest at this moment. If even Brother Han is not their opponent, then it would not be our fault. I suppose the others in the alliance will not say anything either. The old man surnamed Ma broke into a smile and then complimented him, saying, "Brother Ma, you think too highly of me. My divine abilities are not what you two imagine. They are not so profound. You two should not have such high expectations." Han Li glanced at the old man. A faint, enigmatic smile touched the corners of his mouth. Heh. In any case, Brother Han's divine abilities are not those of an ordinary early-stage cultivator. They are far beyond what Taoist Ma and I can compare to. The Yumulan people have started their attack. The bald, burly man also wanted to with Han Li chat more to build a friendship, but he was only halfway through his sentence when his expression changed and he suddenly spoke differently. His gaze hurriedly shot toward the distance. Upon hearing this, Han Li and the old man also turned to look, their expression shifting directly in the direction of the spellcaster army. A faint red light began to glow, a crimson glow, like a sky full of fiery clouds, spread across the distant sky, and within those red clouds, dozens of enormous fireballs, like scorching suns, were currently forming and condensing. What is this? The old man surnamed Ma had clearly never seen such a sight before. He exclaimed in astonishment, "This is a grand spirit technique formation of the mages. It allows numerous mages to take the place of formation flags and discs, a technique to rapidly form a magical array. However, it generally requires one high-level mage to preside over the grand formation for it to work. Seeing how enormous these fireballs are, I'm afraid it's those mages from yesterday who use fire attribute cultivation techniques who are presiding over it." The bald, burly man explained with a grim expression, "A spirit technique grand formation." The old man surnamed Ma muttered. His face still showed a look of astonishment. Although he wanted to ask for more details, he knew that now was not a suitable time, so he shut his mouth and said no more. "The three of us will enter the center and act as the situation demands. Before we engage their Nascent Soul cultivator, we should eliminate as many as we can of their low-level mages." After Han Li withdrew his gaze, he said with an unchanged expression, "All right." The old man and the big man naturally had no objections. So the big man called over several other ambushing cultivators. After giving them instructions one by one, he led them as they all flew into the sea of fog. Yin and I was also among them. Han Li naturally sent a secret voice transmission to give a few instructions. Then Han Li's figure disappeared into the mist. Meanwhile, outside the sea of fog, the Mulan spell masters were divided into dozens of small teams, arranged in a series of profound temple-like formations. They held glittering red fire tribute magical artifacts, raised high above their heads, casting a spell to gather the nearby fire tribute spiritual energy. And at a height of over 300 feet above their heads, dozens of huge fireballs were rolling and taking shape. They emitted a scorching heat. The spell masters under the banners all had dry mouths and parched tongues. Their ears were ringing and their vision was blurred. But each and every one of them, drenched in sweat, was struggling to hold on. In the middle of these dozens of great spiritual art formations, Ku Yaozhen sat there cross-legged and motionless with disheveled hair. His hands were forming strange incantation gestures, and 6 large red banners slowly rotated around him, and that 10-foot-long fire flood dragon was circling and dancing above his head. The red light from its body was extremely dazzling, stirring up patches of fiery clouds that rolled unceasingly, and on the other side, not far from him, the Russian woman, at some unknown time, had already dismounted from the giant beast, and was coldly watching Ku Yao's every move, and not far behind her, the elderly Dharma master was also anxiously watching the scene unfold. Ku Yao suddenly opened his eyes wide, and let out a low shout, 6-sided fire flip. At the same time, a loud humming sound erupted. 6 scarlet pillars of light shot out diagonally from his banner, plunging right into the air, into 6 already formed, giant fireballs, each over 100 feet in size. Instantly, upon absorbing these scarlet pillars of light, all 6 fireballs trembled. Then, the flames on their surfaces suddenly flared up 10 feet high. Then, amidst the rumbling of war drums, these fireballs, like giant meteors, smashed their way into the sea of fog, forming a perfect straight line, as if to forcibly carve a path through it. With so many Dharma masters casting a spell together, the power of the condensed fireballs was truly extraordinary. Even though the Sea of Fog on Fire Dragon Mountain was at its peak, and had been meticulously arranged by the Grand Formation Masters of the Nine Nations Alliance, still, the moment these fireballs made contact with the fog, a world-shattering roar erupted. Several fire pillars, hundreds of feet high, burst through the fog one after another. A gust of hot wind raged past. The nearby mist was swept away in the blink of an eye. Although stationary green and yellow lights were also present all around, a brilliant glow lit up, but it was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. It couldn't block it in the slightest. In the blink of an eye, looking down from the sky, in this area within the sea of mist, 6 more appeared simultaneously, huge circles, arranged in a line. The mist inside them completely vanished, leaving a vast emptiness. A cold glint flashed from the green-robed woman in the mist. With a flip of her fair hand, a single golden ring materialized in her hand. With a flick of her wrist, the ring transformed into a streak of golden light. It shot towards the giant rhino beast at the edge of the sea of mist. A clear ringing sound echoed loudly. The golden ring was perfectly accurate. It landed squarely on the giant rhino's blue horn. Then it suddenly tightened. It firmly attached itself right at the base of the horn, bursting out with a blinding golden light. It's unclear if it was stimulated by the golden light, or if the green-robed woman had played some other trick on it. The giant rhino's pair of jade-green eyes suddenly turned blood-red. A thunderous roar erupted from its mouth. Its massive body charged wildly into the sea of mist. A moment later, the sound of beastly roars echoed to the heavens from within the sea of mist. A smooth atmosphere of yellow and green. Go in. The zombie can use fire magic. Continue to destroy the barrier below. In today's battle, we must break this formation in a single fight. The cold voice of the Jade Mountain woman echoed throughout the entire sky. The great army of spellcasters, who had long been on standby, cheered and then, in groups of more than 10 or 5 to 6, rushed into the green mist. Let's go too. The withered zombie will follow once it has finished casting its spell, the Jade Mountain woman said faintly. A white light flashed around her body, and she transformed into a streak of white and red light, shooting forward. The spellcaster Gao Shou quickly gave a sound of agreement, and transformed into a streak of black light, following closely behind. A moment later, before the Black Sea, only the hundreds of spellcasters setting up the formation remained. At this time, the massive fireballs in the sky, under the pool of Ku Yao's 6-sided fire banners, fell one by one into the Black Sea. All of them lined up with the first 6. After dozens of fire pillars shot up into the sky, they directly destroyed the barriers along this line, destroying them almost completely. After laughing wildly and standing up, Ku Yao shot to his feet with a whoosh. He recalled the surrounding cultivators with a single gesture. Without a second thought, he transformed into a ball of raging fire and charged into the sea of fog. The other cultivators setting up the formation also swarmed forward. In that instant, over 1,000 cultivators crowded into the sea of fog at once, not to mention the others who were secretly manipulating the restrictive spells, and the hundreds of cultivators who were spurred into action. Han Li was deep within the sea of fog. He floated there, motionless. His eyes were lightly closed. He was already clad in the 3-colored gold-devouring heavy armor. Beneath his feet, he stood upon a giant science sword, and above his head, there was also a glittering golden insect cloud about 10 feet wide. It was completely silent, but the flying insects within were all ferocious and sinister. Their eyes glinted with a malevolent light, a scene of them poised and ready to strike. Han Li's eyelids twitched slightly. He slowly opened his eyes. A hint of surprise appeared on his face.